Are you nervous?
No.
Okay, cool. What's up, YouTubers? It's Nick here with Real Talk with Nick, and I'm here with my friend Michelle, amazing friend, and I wanted to bring her out. She's also a therapist. We're sitting on her boat. It's freaking amazing. I thought it was gonna rain.
I know, it was like gloomy and cloudy, and I was like, I don't know if we can go down to the boat.
Yeah, but I wanted to come here to really meet with Michelle because, like I said, she's an amazing therapist. Hands down, if you guys are looking for a therapist, you're in the El Segundo area. That's kind of near LAX. If you guys are looking for a good therapist,
Michelle Fryback.
Michelle is the person to see.
MichelleFryback.com.
Yes, there you go. And really, how this came about was just we were just talking a couple weeks ago about you, me wanting you to get more exposure.
Yes.
You know, and
And me
like,
being nervous about being on video.
yeah,
on
and I'm like,
social
what is
media.
the issue?
What is the issue?
Yeah, what is the issue?
I think it's about like, well, I think we all, and this is probably how I help my clients, we all have fears of doing things that aren't comfortable, out of our comfort zone. And I tend to procrastinate on those things.
Right.
And like sit on them and sit on them and sit on them and then create all kinds of stories in my head about it, right? And then I'm like, oh God, I can't do that.
Right. Yeah, and it's so crazy because I'm always around therapists, and what I love about Michelle is she's so authentic and she keeps it real. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
There's so many people who will just tell you kind of what you want to hear. They talk like robots, but for
Or
you,
put on a face
yeah,
that they think you want to see.
yeah, and for you, it's so simple. It's like I surf.
Yeah.
I do therapy. I like to
Yeah.
help people.
I like to be
have
outside.
fun. Yeah.
I like my animals.
And this is her environment where we're just sitting out on the boat.
Yeah.
Yeah, but tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do, and who do you like to help?
I like to be outdoors. I love to be outdoors. I'm very athletic. I love animals. And I think the reason I became a therapist, is because I love relationships.
Yeah.
I just like making connections with people. I like relationships. It's always important to me. I was an accountant once in my past life, and they put me on at this cubicle in front of this desk, and I was very miserable because there's no connection. I would get in trouble because I would leave my desk like every couple hours to go to
Right.
the cafeteria just to make connections with people.
Right.
I just wanted to be like connect. I just want to connect. And so I have like, I think this innate ability to be intuitive and connect with people. So I think that is just a natural thing, and my ability to be empathetic.
Yeah.
I think it's just natural. So that stuff serves me well. So my neighbor at the boat just brought us biscotti.
There you go.
There's 7 different flavors here.
7 different
Oh,
flavors.
wow.
Some's got ginger. You're not taking blood thinners, are you?
No, I'm not. We're
Okay,
good.
I have to take them. I can't have too much ginger.
All right.
You'll like them chocolate, yeah.
Thank you, Dwight. See you later. It's perfect.
Amazing.
We're just talking about connecting, and my neighbor shows up.
Yeah. Who do you see, or who comes to see you in your?
I like to see, mostly, I don't even think it's something I created, it just happened. I mostly work with people in regards to depression and anxiety, and do a lot of couples counseling, and I wasn't like I intended for these to be my specialties. I think it just, I don't know, became that way. I don't know how. I guess because I've suffered from depression and anxiety for a lot of my life, and so I know what it feels like, and I can tell my clients
Yeah.
my own experience, which I think gives them hope and tools, and
Yeah.
someone else has been through it.
What's the difference between just sadness and like depression?
Sadness is a feeling that we feel when we have loss or we get our feelings hurt, and it's a feeling like weather that comes through
Right.
us and leaves us. Depression, my experience with depression, and I don't want to be all like clinical and use psychobabble, but my experience with depression is it's more of a numb feeling. There is sadness, but it's deeper and darker and more hopeless and lasts longer. My experience with depression, when I was depressed in my 20s, was more about like I couldn't get out of bed in the morning. I didn't have any motivation. I wasn't excited about anything. Things that used to make me happy
Right.
didn't make me happy.
So it's a different kind of heaviness.
Yeah, a
kinda-
longer lasting, a deeper and longer
Yeah.
lasting.
So when it comes to depression, what helps or what is the issue?
Well, I think it just depends on the person as
Yeah.
far as what the issue is. How I approach it is to get people talking about it. First and foremost, what are you feeling? What is it like? What are you experiencing? And then there's some tools that I think are really important. Sometimes with depression comes anxiety, and so I use a lot of meditation with that. I think meditation helps with depression as well, so that's a tool I use, but not everyone can do that.
Right.
So mindfulness is sort of a way to live in the world, and even if you're not meditating, being present in the here and now. You know
Yeah.
about mindfulness.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think exercise is very, very, very important. And not everyone can exercise, but I have a client who's overweight and has some health problems, and just getting her up and out walking is enough to get her out of her head and into her body. So with exercise, it's not just like being
Right.
healthy. It's there's something that happens when you're exercising and you breathe deeply. It connects you more with your body, and then when you're in your body, you are more in your feelings.
Right.
And when you're not in your body, you're in your head,
Right.
and you're in your story, and you're in your thoughts about your depression, and you're obsessing and worrying and feeling bad and creating more bad stories, and it just gets worse.
Right. Yeah, and I think one of the things you're saying that I'm starting to pick up on is really when we use the term exercise, people just associate it with how you look for the physical body, but we
Right.
got to switch it.
Yes.
Switch is not just
No,
exercise
it's
with
self-care.
intention. Yeah,
This is self-care.
yeah.
In fact, my husband and I have our routine, and we got a dog recently, and she adds more to my routine. And I wasn't having time for my self-care, which is exercise, whether it's surfing or walking or running or whatever, yoga. I wasn't having time for that, and I was noticing feeling more agitated and
Right.
even like a little lower with my excitement for life. And it's self-care.
Right.
I mean, as humans, we need to move.
Yeah.
It's not about, I don't even think of it as like trying to lose weight or trying to look a certain way. I guess that's great if there's side effects of that, but I really like to get away from all the body shaming, and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
hard for women anyway.
Yeah, I think that's
Men too, probably.
Yeah, I think that's something I'm starting to understand more, just even with myself, is when we go in it with an intention of exercise for the look of it, the aesthetics of
yeah.
it, it's like it doesn't give the same kind of impact versus just going in
Yeah.
there.
In fact, I think it's interesting you say that, because I can't do exercise for the sake of exercise.
Yeah.
I just can't. I can't go and do a class at a gym, like a weights
Right.
class, because I mean, it's nothing wrong with it for others, but I can't do it. I have to do something I like. I have to enjoy it. I have to get a high from it.
Yeah. And just movement versus then you're attached to an identity, and then it becomes a label. And
And then it becomes a job
right,
and a burden.
right.
And really the goal is to move and breathe deeply and connect with your body and connect with your feelings. Because the other thing about depression is that sometimes it's a lack of feeling. I had a friend that died of cancer, and it was pretty devastating for me. I hadn't really had a lot of loss in my life.
Right.
And I thought I was processing it with her along the way. And then when she died, I shut down. I became really numb. That's when I met you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, remember in the Gestalt
Oh,
class?
yeah.
I became super numb and shut down inside, and I was not feeling and unhappy, but not even sad, just blank and down. And it was really getting hard to do my job, because as a therapist, the kind of work I do, I have to connect with my own feelings in
Right.
the moment with my client, because that's how we connect.
Right.
And it was really getting in the way of work, which I don't even think is work. But
Yeah.
so I found the training that we met in Gestalt training, and it helped to sort of crack all that open again and get to the soft underbelly of my sadness and my loss, and then I could grieve it and come out the other side, and my depression lifted.
Yeah.
So that's a circumstantial thing, right? There's no right answer for everybody.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So, any tips for people experiencing grief and loss?
I think it's very important to talk to someone who's not going to should you.
Explain
And what I
that.
mean by that is, I think, I was just telling someone this the other day, I think most humans, especially in Western culture, really struggle with loss and death, and they are uncomfortable with it, and there's no solution for it, right? We lose someone and you can't bring them back,
Yeah.
and that's hard. But I think most friends and family can't just be helpless. are powerless, and so it's hard for them to sit with you and listen to you feel sad about your loss. And so I think they start to should you. They start with good intentions. They start to say things like, "Oh, they died for a good reason," or "It was God's time," or "At least they're not suffering," or they get into a whole thing of like trying to fix it for you, but it can't be fixed. And you should exercise, right? You should do this, you should do that, and you should clean out his stuff in the closet and move on, or whatever. Like you should sell your house and buy a condo and live alone now and move on with your life. All these shoulds. And I think it's really important to talk to someone who can sit with you in your sadness and your grief and listen to you over and over and over talk about how much you miss this person until it's not as at the surface. Because I think when we lose people, it never goes away.
Yeah, and you just need someone who can contain you and someone who can witness you.
Yeah, witnessing.
Yeah,
they need to witness you without trying to change you, without trying to fix it.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure.
I'm preaching to the choir.
Yeah, and it's just like you just need to be seen, you need to be witnessed, where when I'm telling my story, I'm sharing with you my experience, I'm sharing with you my heartache. I just need another soul to just watch it.
Yeah.
That's it. And that's sometimes all people need.
Yeah.
You know, they don't
I feel like
need
that's changed my life. I think that's why I feel so passionate about doing it with others, because even I keep remembering back to the training we were in together, and like the day that I cracked that open and was just crying and sobbing, and like just being with other people that cared and would sit there with me and support me. And I have a hard time crying when there's no witness.
Right. We need that. So with all your experience of doing this kind of work, why do people suffer so much, you feel like? What are some common themes? I know that's a big question, but what are some common themes that you've noticed and that can provide some tips to people who are watching?
Well, I think it's simple yet so complex. And again, I'm speaking to someone who probably has way more experience in this than me, but I think it goes back to this sort of Buddhist concept of the more you push up against it and try to avoid what you're experiencing, the more suffering you experience. It's very simplistic.
Yeah, no, it's amazing.
But there's this great quote, I think it's Wayne Dyer, and I go to it all the time in my own life when I feel like I'm suffering, and it's, you're probably suffering if you are focusing on how things should be rather than what is. And in my life, whenever I'm like unhappy or complaining or whatever, I'm always like, oh, because I want it to be this.
Yeah.
I'm not accepting what is. And I think accepting what is doesn't mean that like you're complacent and you're just like, all right, I guess I'm gonna stay in this bad relationship forever.
That's called a victim.
Yes.
You know?
Like I'm still gonna just live in this horrible place or be this horrible job forever.
Yeah.
Accepting is like, okay, this is my reality, my present right now. And you can't move forward until you can't make changes to move forward until you accept where you are now.
Yeah. Like honor your experience.
Yeah.
Honor
And the
that
more
moment.
you dig into your current experience, the more things open up and doors and windows and your awareness opens up, and then you can make more choices.
Right. And that's where, for me too, working with my clients, the theme that keeps coming back is, I'm like, you're not living your true nature.
Oh, yes, you're not being authentic.
Yeah, you're not being authentic. The way you're designed and built, that's why I called my private practice True Nature Counseling Center, because time and time again, the theme is always, you're not living how you're freaking built.
Right.
You're living
not
how you
wired
should
this
be.
way.
Yeah, you're living how
Right.
you're, what everyone expects of you,
Right.
but at your core,
It's
that's not
funny,
you.
when I was a little girl, not little girl, but like junior high school, I was like, always admired like the quiet girl who smiled all the time, that everybody liked, that said the right thing, and like that's not me. I'm outgoing and I'm kind of loud, and I have a lot of energy, and sometimes I interrupt people,
No,
not my
it's
clients, but and so I have a lot of energy, and I always wanted to be this other person that I wasn't. And I was just killing myself by like longing to be this way.
See, it's funny because I was the opposite, where I was the quiet one, wanting to be the loud one because I thought that's what it would be. I went to see a couple therapists, and a specific one gave me tools and skills of coping skills. You know, when you're going to a party, maybe meet with one person, talk to them, engage in them. You don't have to work the room, you don't have to be loud. And that was the worst thing that was probably given to me. And what I wish they would have done is told me, the way you're designed and built is you're more quiet, you're an introvert,
Right,
and that is
right.
okay.
And then
Like, own
what's that like for you? Like, what is it like to be the quiet
Yeah.
one in a room? And what does it feel like? And maybe I'm just making this up, but like maybe you're like, well, it feels kind of lonely. Oh,
Right.
okay, well, how is it lonely? And then you like crack that open and then you figure out, oh, I can still be quiet and make contact
Mhm.
with people and connect with people.
Yeah, right.
You know, like you can still be yourself.
No, but that's just one of the themes I notice kind of coming back up all the time regarding suffering is really when people aren't authentic to themselves, don't honor who they are.
Yeah,
You're struggling
Yeah.
when it doesn't have to be there.
right.
You put this parameter around you, you're a
Right.
circle trying to fit into a square,
Yeah.
and you wonder why.
Right, jamming yourself into the square
Yeah.
peg, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're sad, but yet you shouldn't be.
right.
You have feelings, but you should not have those feelings. But it's like,
The shoulds.
why don't you?
The shoulds.
Yeah.
The shoulds get us into trouble all the time. You should be thin, you should be fat, you should be tall, you should be short, you should be
Right.
athletic. Like those shoulds.
How do you get rid of that?
As a therapist, I work with clients on just being more of who they are through dialogue and exploring that and talking about, like, sort of honoring even the part of themselves that they hate, that they don't like, and talking about that part. So talking about all those parts, and through that process, just sort of by process or magic, it's not magic, they start to accept all those parts of themselves, and the shoulds sort of drift away. I also had a pretty great therapist for a very long time that actually used some affirmations with me, and I'm not usually prone to affirmations,
Yeah.
but when I did some research, she couldn't explain why they worked, but when I did some research, I actually learned that it was like just building a new neural pathway in your brain. That sort of, they're the old neural pathway are the shoulds and the negative thoughts and negative and voice,
Right.
and just by doing affirmations, you just sort of naturally build a new neural pathway.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Interesting.
it is interesting. And so for me, like some affirmations that I used were really helpful with the shoulds. And then there's this concept that I think is trendy right now of shame. You know, Brene Brown's done a lot of TED Talks about that and written a lot of books. And I think shame and shoulds go together like peanut butter and jelly. And shame is different from guilt. Shame is like, I'm a bad person. Guilt is I might have done a bad thing. And I think when a person, I've had shame in my life. When you have a lot of shame, there's just a lot more shoulds because it's a lot of rejection and lack of self-acceptance. And so connecting with that shame and talking about that shame, again, like loosens it all up and it starts to crumble away. And shame disappears through being vulnerable and transparent and talking about it
Right.
with accepting and compassionate people. Shame gets worse with judgment and keeping it secret.
Do you know how big that was, what you just said? Really, for the audience who are watching, I think that's a key piece of advice where shame has to be witnessed.
Yes.
It has to be witnessed in the presence of someone else, and it can go two directions. Someone who's supportive.
Supportive and accepting, and empathy is a very, very, very important component there. Someone who has empathy, who can witness you talking about your shame, helps to sort of that shame to disintegrate more and more. It's not a fast process, it's not overnight, but nothing is. But if it goes the other way, and you start talking about your shame with someone who's judgmental and shaming, it gets worse. And then we close up more and make it more of a secret.
Right.
I run a group on Thursday nights, and I think the biggest thing in that group, there's like people of all ages, all races, genders, and I think the thing they all have in common is they all have shame, and then they talk about their shame, and they're like, oh my God, I thought I was the only one. And then they all realize, no, everybody feels these things.
Right.
God, if we all walked around the world like exposing our shame,
Yeah.
it'd be a peaceful place, baby.
Yeah. Can you talk about just confidence and self-esteem?
Yeah, I feel like a person could have confidence and still have a lot of shame. Like, I feel like confidence is up here with, like, it's like the first layer,
Right.
right? And then the second layer is like self-esteem, and then underneath that is self-worth,
Right.
right? And so when I feel worthy of love, friendship, and success, happiness, all of those things, then I have more self-esteem. I have more self-esteem, I can be more confident.
Right.
I think confidence can also sometimes be like pretended.
Yeah, a disguise.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like there are people out there with lots, like narcissists have so much shame. They're so wounded and they're so deflated inside that they have to inflate themselves on the outside with a lot of like bravado and confidence. It looks like confidence.
Yeah.
But it's all to protect how deflated they feel inside, how much shame they have inside. And their shame is like exceptionally secret. They can never expose that. They would die before they expose that.
Yeah. So that really is the kind of the underlining issue with
A
narcissists.
Yeah. And they need to sort of get, they have to suck your admiration of them. They have to suck that off you to keep their confidence.
Yeah.
Okay, so couples. I like working with couples because it's eventful.
Yeah.
There's just so much going on, and I like tracking it, and I feel like what I do with couples is I break it down very, very like into very minute information. So they're having an argument like about, I don't know, parenting, let's say, and she says something about his parenting, like, or he says, you know, when I get home from work, the house is a mess. This is a common thing. She has a baby at home. She's not working. He comes home, the house is a mess. He can't understand why the house is such a mess.
Right.
Right. That's a common thing. The other common thing is she leaves him with the kids for a Saturday to take to the soccer game, and when she takes him to the soccer game, everything's packed up and properly packaged, and everybody has a jacket and food, and everything's planned. But when he takes them to the soccer game, he just gathers them up and puts them in the car and goes. And so then when they come back, they're fed because he fed them. They've been warm because he borrowed jackets from someone, and they might be dirty, but they had a good time and they're safe.
Yeah.
But like, so that'll be a common thing. Like, there's just difference in what needs are and how you're communicating and the meaning you make of things.
Oh, wow.
So I would just break it down. Like, I'm mad because of, you know, whatever, the house isn't clean. And then I break it down into like, well, how do you feel when you hear him say that? Oh, I feel not loved. Okay, so for her, when he's disappointed about the house being clean, it means she's not loved. And then I ask him, what's that like? And he's like, I love her.
Yeah.
I'm just disappointed that the house isn't clean.
Right.
And then we talk about like, well, what is your expectation about the house? And then he talks about that. And I mean, I don't know if that's a very good example, but basically, I just break down like sort of the statements that people make or the things people fight about. The content of this is a better explanation. The content of what people fight about is ever changing.
Right.
It's a new content all the time. The process and how they fight is always the same.
Right. Oh, wow. Does it come back to like a love language thing? And what
I mean, I do use that, but that's just more like surfacey stuff, like toolkit kind of thing. But the truth is that like, I hate to use an example from my own life, but it's really easier. So like, I know someone whose issue is people being inconsiderate, and my issue is I grew up with I grew up kind of being shamed a lot, and so I'm very sensitive to being shamed. And so when I experience someone shaming me with the tone of voice or the words they use, I have a disproportionate reaction. I get angry and upset in my own life. And so when the other person feels like someone's being inconsiderate to them, they have a disproportionate reaction. They get really angry. Whenever there's a disproportionate reaction to something, chances are good it's not about the present. So
wow.
Like a red flag. Like, whenever your reaction to something, like, you didn't unload the dishwasher! Like, that is very disproportionate to the situation. So chances are really good that is not about the present, that has something to do with the past. And not that I spend a lot of time on our childhood issues, but you got to know your triggers. And as soon as you can know your triggers, then you could say, I'm being triggered. You don't have to talk about the dishwasher anymore.
And then make it personal and attack the other
and I'm
person.
feeling triggered. What's being triggered? Oh, I feel disrespected when you don't unload the dishwasher. Oh my God, I love you. I would never want to disrespect you. I didn't even care if the dishwasher's loaded or unloaded, so I had no idea that would bother you.
Wow.
So there's always this thing that happens in couples where they just miss each other. It's because of the meaning they make of things.
Right. And it's just really then goes back to the communication, to the just talking, what triggered it, what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
you need like a third party to sort of explore that with you so you
Right.
can figure it out usually. And it's not going to happen in one session. But I'm pretty
Yeah.
skilled at getting underneath that. And
Yeah. I'm going to ask you a bunch of like fire rapid questions
Oh, okay.
because regarding couples, I don't work with couples,
Okay.
and I hear a lot of these complaints a lot.
Okay.
And for the viewers who are out there, if someone is in a long-term relationship and they're in this argument cycle, where they just keep bickering, how do they stop that? How do we get out of it? I know what I'm doing, I know what you're doing, but I can't stop. We keep fighting. How do you get out of that?
you go to therapy.
Okay.
So you can have a third party help you with that. But I do have like sort of some rules for fighting that I give couples.
Yeah, please.
That are super important. One of the rules is oftentimes when there's the bickering back and forth, the cycle that just won't stop. One person, usually there's one person who's like, I'm done, I can't talk about this anymore. And then they storm out and maybe slam a door, maybe drive away, go for a walk, whatever, disappear. And usually the person who's left feels abandoned. That's a common thing.
Right.
So my suggestion or rule is when the argument starts to get too over the top, someone needs to say, I need a break. And the person who didn't say it needs to respect that. And then the break is like this. There's some rules about the break. I'm going to take a break, and I'm going to give you the specific amount of time that I'm going to take for my break. So I need 2 hours. I need tonight. I need I need 30 minutes, whatever it's going to be.
Yeah.
And then there needs to be agreed upon time where we're going to connect again. So I need 2 hours. We're going to text again at 7:30. Or we're going to call again at 7:30. Or I'll be home at 7:30. Even if 7:30 comes and you're not ready to talk yet, you still make contact. So you text, you call, you say, I'm just checking in, because that's our agreement. I'm not ready yet. I'm still angry. I'm still fired up. So I just need a couple more hours. Or sometimes I need to sleep on it. That whole thing of don't go to bed mad, angry, I think that's a wives' tale.
Right.
I mean, I was in a relationship before, and we stayed up till like 3 and 4 in the morning arguing sometimes when I was in my 20s, and that's exhausting.
Yeah, and
And I
sometimes
think
you just need to process it.
yeah, and I think it chips away at the relationship. Staying up all night and the things that come out of our mouths.
Yeah.
It's not good. So I think taking a break is very important, and then coming back with a calmer head. I feel like there's 3 things that I tell people. More vulnerability, less ego, and compassion, empathy. The 4th thing is sex. There needs to be sex in a relationship.
Yeah.
And if there's not sex, then there's problems.
Yeah. What is that tied to when the sex life isn't quite there yet? Is that just saying there's a breakdown in connection? Is there a breakdown in communication? What is that a sign of?
So, could be a lot of things. Could be stage of life. Like if a woman just had a baby or has like 3 kids that are under the age of 5, there could be a lot of reasons people aren't having sex. Could be anger. Could be like life situation, too busy, too tired. Could be perimenopause. There could be a lot of reasons for not having sex. But I think when a couple buys into it and just lets it fall away, it's kind of dangerous for a relationship. I mean, unless both people agree, I don't care about sex, I am not sexual, I'm asexual. There are people out there that are asexual that just aren't interested in sex, and that's fine as long as you both agree for that. But chances are good that that's not how you were when you came into the relationship.
Yeah.
Sex creates, it releases a hormone called oxytocin, which is also released when you hug people, it's released when you give childbirth, it's released when you're breastfeeding, and it creates attachment. When a couple has sex, they're both releasing that hormone, and there's attachment. So it's really important. And couples who have sex have less angry, mean arguments. So they're kinder to each other.
Oh, wow.
Doesn't mean you're not going to argue, but it is important. I have this, I should trademark it, and I don't know if I should say on the video, but I have this concept called maintenance sex.
Okay.
And it goes like this. So if you have a baby or you have toddlers or whatever, and your life is hectic and you just aren't interested in sex, you're going to do it anyway. I mean, unless there's trauma about
Yeah.
sex. So that's a separate issue. And I don't want to get into that. But if you have a relationship and you're not interested in sex, you have to have maintenance sex, because you can't just wait till you go away on vacation in July and expect to have great sex if you're never having sex,
Right.
because you're going to be strangers. So maintenance sex is like we're gonna just, our expectation is just sex. We're doing it to connect. We're not doing it to have great sex. And it doesn't
Yeah.
matter if anyone has an orgasm. Well, usually someone does, but it's not the focus. The focus is connection
All right.
and closeness. And so you commit to that, like once a week, sometimes twice a week, depends on the couple and the situation. And you commit to your maintenance sex. So just having basic, it's because you maintain everything else
Yeah.
in your life, right?
Right,
You
right.
eat to maintain your life, you go to work, but like you don't maintain your sex life. You just think that it's going to be like it always was when you first started, and it just organically happens, and you lust for each other. But it isn't like that in a long-term monogamous relationship. So you two people in a couple commit to, like, on Wednesday nights we're going to have a babysitter, and we're going to drop the kids off at mom's house or whatever,
Yeah.
and we're going to have maintenance sex, and it doesn't have to be candles and bubble baths, and it is just like, I hate to say it, wham bam thank you ma'am, like doesn't have to be the greatest sex in the world. I mean, I don't want it to be disrespectful sex, but it is sex for the sake of connecting. And then when you have the weekend and you're out on date night, you can have great sex. Or then when you go on vacation, you can have great sex. But if you're not having maintenance sex, you're going to be strangers. And there's resentments that develop. And I've heard in relationships, couples say, well, when the kids go back to school, we'll start having sex again. And I'm like, whoa, you think your partner's going to wait
Yeah.
5 years to have sex and be ready?
Right.
Like, they're going to be either using porn or cheating or just angry and resentful. And that's going to be a hard thing to
Yeah.
repair.
Yeah. How do you spice up the sex life?
Well, I'm not a sex therapist. But I just think if you're having maintenance sex, like, when it comes to the nights of we have time together,
Yeah.
I think it's about communication.
Right.
Right? I think, like, those nights where you do have more time, I think you need to tell your partner, like, what it is that you like and what it is that turns you on and what it is that gets you hot and bothered. And I
Right.
think you have to communicate about that stuff because it could be different for everyone.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. What are some other
Did
hot
you know we'd get into the topic of sex?
Oh no, we have to, especially with couples therapy. You know, that's a big prime topic. But
It's a common problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I'll have couples that have come in and they're in their 40s and they haven't had sex in 10 years. Or 50s.
Oh wow.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
pretty crazy.
Because they didn't do maintenance sex. And young couples need to know this.
Yeah. Right.
Because they will be that couple in the restaurant that sits and eats their meal and never speaks to each other. You know, you've seen them. It's sad.
I'm laughing because someone's gonna show this footage to their partner.
We need to have maintenance sex. See?
Yeah.
My
Awesome.
husband's down in the boat listening to all of this.
What other issues are common issues that come up regarding couples?
I think there's power struggles
Yeah.
about control.
Okay. How do you deal with that?
Well, control is usually about anxiety and fear being out of control. So you get to the underbelly of that.
Yeah.
So usually when I'm doing couples counseling, we find out, like, what it is that you're really afraid of, things being out of control.
Yes.
And then that goes back to vulnerability. So, right, if you always go back to vulnerability, then there's a place for us to make connection.
Right.
Because if I can say, I'm so afraid if things are out of control that you'll leave me, or I'm so afraid if things are out of control, like, I don't know, when I was a kid and things were out of control, my dad was drunk and people got hurt, or, you know.
Yeah.
So when you get to the underbelly of like what the fear is under the control, then the partner can have empathy, and then there's a place for connection and things start to shift. I think the other issue is this pursuer-distancer relationship that often happens.
Yeah, please explain
Do you know
that.
about that?
Uh-huh. Yeah, please explain that.
So, and it shifts back and forth, but often there'll be like a dynamic between a couple where the one member of the relationship wants more time, more energy, more connection, and sort of is like maybe perceived as needy. I don't know that they are needy, but that's how they might be perceived. And they're always like sort of pursuing their partner. And in theory, the underlying cause of that is like fear of abandonment, afraid of abandonment. So like a fear of allowing space between or being separate. And then the person who's distancing is more like running away or avoiding or not always interested in spending every waking moment together, or thinks everything's fine, can't understand why their partner's so upset. I think their underlying fear is one of suffocation.
Yeah.
And they're longing for more space.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But sometimes it'll shift back and forth. And they'll be pursuing distancing.
Yeah. So why is it important to know that? Is it just to understand your patterns?
Well, I think from the kind of therapy I do, self-awareness is the first step in change. So if you can have awareness of the dynamic that goes on, then you have more choices available. I mean, I guess for me, once there's awareness in the couples therapy, I can say, all right, so the next time you feel like you're pursuing, instead of doing the pursuing, you could say, I'm feeling insecure and I'm afraid you're going to abandon me.
Right.
And then you have a greater chance of your partner turning back and like having empathy for that.
Yeah.
And talking about it.
And you're addressing the heart of the issue.
Yes.
Versus then we're talking about the dishwasher.
Right.
And it has nothing to do with the freaking
Right.
dishwasher.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I feel like
Totally.
that's why with like couples therapy, with a lot of clients that come in to see us, it's just a distraction, smoke screen,
Yeah.
a lot of details.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know what you just said, but at the heart of it,
There's
let's go
something you're
back
afraid
to
of,
some
or
core
something,
things.
yeah.
Yeah, to
But
vulnerability.
I don't know that they like intend for that. I just think they don't really know what's underneath it.
Yeah.
They need our help to like explore that and uncover it.
And not only explore and cover, but to language it. A lot of
Yeah,
times
put
you don't
words
even
to it.
have the language, and it's like if I don't have the lens to look at these issues, if I don't have the lens to look at myself, how do I even treat it?
Yeah.
It's kind of like a doctor going in to do surgery, and it's like, I don't know what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
We're just gonna operate on something.
Right.
What are you doing?
Right.
But go in there, get the tools, come see a therapist, and let them help you be a neutral third party.
Yeah.
I don't see couples. No, I will not see
No.
couples.
No.
Never.
I will not see couples.
So make sure you guys go to Michelle.
I love couples therapy. The other thing, really quick, I don't know if we have time. I like this one. It's about anger. So people who feel like they have anger problems will often say, well, I try to control it. And I'm always like, no, do not try to control the anger, because you can't control the anger. I think people who have difficulty with the anger are people who deny it. They don't like that they're angry. They don't like that feeling. So they try to control it, and then it blows up.
Oh, wow.
And so my work is let's own the anger and communicate about it instead of acting it out.
Right.
And so, like, I'm going to use another example
Of a person you know.
of a person that I know. A person I know and I, about 10 years ago, were changing at the beach to go surfing, and my towel might have come off a little, and this person was upset with me, and then we got in a fight, and I was mad, and so we were walking down to the beach with our boards to surf, and this person said, well, where do you want to surf? And I said, I don't know, I'm mad at you. And this was new. I was like owning my anger. In the past, I would act it out, and so I said, I'm mad at you. And this person said, well, I'm not mad at you, which I think is funny. And I said, well, I'm mad at you. I'm surfing over there. And this person said, well, I'm surfing over there. I said, all right. Okay, so we didn't surf together. And then we came back up to the parking lot later, and this person said, do you want to spend the afternoon together? And I said, no, I'm still mad. And this person has a lot of self-esteem and self-worth. So they said, okay, well, I'm going home. Let me know when you feel better. And so I went home, and then we touched base, and they said, are you mad at me? And I said, not anymore. But I feel like that was a good example, because in the past, I might have acted out my anger and like, you did this and you did that. And, I think just saying I'm angry and I need more space till I can process through that. Like when we're angry, sometimes the other person can't do anything about it. Like it's my job to process through it. Like when you meditate, you can watch feelings rise to the height, and then they fall away. And most people don't know that anger has a peak, and it's going to go away. And so telling someone you're angry and giving yourself space until you're not mad anymore is a really good choice.
All right. It's amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it works really well.
Right. Awesome.
That's another thing that I really work with in couples is this sort of capacity to hold your hurt.
Mm.
Because if there's conflict, we're always going to have differences, especially in couples. And so there's going to be a time where this person says, I don't like this about you. And you may not be able to change that, or you may not want to change that.
Yeah.
There's just a fact that your partner doesn't like something about you, and it hurts.
Right.
And like, can you say that hurts my feelings? And your partner says, I'm sorry, I can't change that. And
Yeah.
can you just hold that? Can you just like self-soothe your own hurt and contain and hold
Yeah.
that? Have a tolerance
Right.
for that. And
Manage your own
Yeah.
stuff.
I think that's work,
Yeah.
but it's something I work a lot with.
And then speaking of manage your own stuff, manage your own power, I always teach that.
Mm-hmm.
But specifically for people in relationships with kids, I'm thinking of like a woman who is married. She has kids. She is cooking. She has her responsibility. How do you find time to care for yourself
Oh, that's really hard,
and
isn't
not?
it?
It's a common theme that keeps coming up. And two,
And mom guilt.
Yeah, that's
Mom
exactly what I
guilt.
was
Yeah,
going to say.
yeah,
How do
yeah.
you manage all that?
I think it's really hard. I think it goes
Oh,
back
and today's Mother's Day.
Mother's
so,
Day.
So perfect
yeah,
timing.
Perfect. And by the way, happy Mother's Day to all women,
Yeah.
because I feel like all women are nurturers, even the ones that don't have children.
I was going to vlog about that.
Yeah, I think it's so
Yeah,
important.
because I'm like, and every single woman, that's part of you.
Yeah.
Whether you
I
have
nurture,
kids,
I
you
don't have children,
kids.
and I nurture lots of people. I even called my
Right.
girlfriend. We both don't have kids. So I said, "Happy Mother's Day, because you nurture me." She said, "Happy Mother's Day, because you nurture me." Like, and of course, women who actually give birth and raise children, that's a whole exceptional type of mother. But the mother's guilt is really tough. I think it goes back to the shoulds.
Mm.
There's a lot of shoulds on women, especially in Western. I don't know about other cultures, but I know that in the women that I know and I see try to have it all. They try to be fit and thin and look pretty, and they try to have perfect children and a perfect house and work a job and like I there was an article read, I think it was in Vanity Fair maybe 5 years ago, by like some Fortune 500 CEO, a woman who, it was an article, I think the title was "You Can't Have It All." And she said, you can't have it all. You can't be the perfect mother and be a CEO of a Fortune 500 company and married and hope that all works out, because something's going to drop.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I think it's about the shoulds.
And then that means re-examine it.
Yeah, like maybe you don't have to have a clean house and a like, what's really important, I guess. What's really important? I think what's really important is raising great human beings that you love, right? I think for every mother and probably father, that's the most important thing.
And also to take care of yourself.
Yeah, and so I can't raise perfect, wonderful, loved humans without caring for myself first, because what do I have left to give if I'm not doing well?
Yeah, and when
So-
I'm with my clients too, it's like it's so complicated, our situations. I'm like, go back to the basics, go back to the core.
Right.
At the core is we need you moms to
Yes.
be healthy,
Yeah.
and that way you can also be a model and take care of your
Right.
kids. Like, go back to the basics versus then I should do this, I should do that, and I should re-examine that. Is
Yeah.
that still accurate as of right now?
I think go back to the core, right? Go back to the core. What's really important? It's what's really important is the kids, and so and your connection with them and raising them as good human beings. And so, is it really important to have a clean kitchen and a clean house, or could you let that stuff go so that you can go to therapy?
Right.
Because that's the best gift you could ever give your children. Is working on yourself. Is it more important for you to go to therapy and have a dirty kitchen?
Right.
Is it more important for you to go for a walk and get some silence, or have a clean kitchen? Like, if you really look at what your core values are.
Yeah.
So I was talking about my purpose is relationships. So everything goes back to that. When I feel like I'm getting lost or I'm overwhelmed, I look at what I'm doing and I go back to like what's really important.
Mm-hmm.
What's really important is my relationship with my husband, and I love animals, and my relationship with my animals and my friends and my family.
Yeah.
And do these things that I'm distracted and overwhelmed about, did they support that purpose? Not so much, you know. So like, I'm a little obsessive compulsive with neat stuff, like having a clean house or having a clean kitchen, and I really practice letting that stuff go.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't support my purpose, and I don't have all the time in the world, and so sometimes I think what's more important is spending time with people I love.
Yeah, and here's a tip for anyone watching is get out a sheet of paper and really write down your top 5 values. You know, what are they? And if it's family, if it's friend, if it's pets, animals, relationships, what is it? And then get back to that intention, and that will help guide you. For me, I created a course of how to find yourself that I just launched. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
It's simple. It's
I'm
so
so
simple.
excited for
But
you.
it's, again, getting rid of all the shoulds and making sure you live by how you're designed and built. Because every single spirit needs to know who they are, and then secondly, it needs to be expressed into the world. But people don't know how to get there, and this course below talks about that. So feel free to check it out. Also, with Michelle, make sure you check out her website. I'll link it.
MichelleFryback.com. My office number is 310-784-7717.
Yeah, so make sure you guys come see her. Have some maintenance sex. Have some maintenance therapy. I know a lot of people will wait when it's a little bit too late.
Yeah, that happens a lot with marriage counseling.
Versus if you are in a relationship now, if you're hoping it to be a long-term relationship, maintenance. You're like cars. So
Yeah.
again, take it in, get an oil change, and
I think it's funny how people feel like they'll work at everything in their life, but they shouldn't have to work at their relationship. It should just happen naturally.
yeah,
But everything else, we work at school, we work at our jobs, we work out, we work at being parents, but like I shouldn't have to work at love.
yeah. So
It's
now,
funny.
because everyone is attached to a fantasy. Where it's like the Cinderella story,
Yes.
and no, it's not that.
Right.
Like, get out of that fantasy, and the reality is relationships are hard.
And love is a choice.
Yeah.
You choose to love.
Yes.
In the beginning, it's chemistry and passion and sex, but after that fades away, after a year or 18 months, then it's a choice. You choose to still love someone.
Right. So, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Awesome.
You hug.
Oh, very good. That's awesome.
Glad you came down.